All right, so I see there's about 7 people in the room. I'm not sure what that means, but just give me a second. Let me just share my screen and we will start. Let's see. I hope you can hear me, by the way.
Yes, we can get you, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure about my connection these days, which is why I have to confirm whether or not people can hear me or something. Okay. This is weird. I thought I had, I thought actually I had the presentation beamed up, but for some weird reason I can't seem to find it. Let me just re-export this thing, I suppose. It appears I did not. Right. Oh, it appears I did actually, but I think the cover page was a bit misleading, which is why I thought I didn't. Normally these interactions are tied to a specific lecture series, if you remember, but as it turns out, this is one of those ad hoc interactions. I thought we'd have this conversation because of some of the comments that came through via email over the weekend. What I have always thought is disappointing is the apathy, right? When people are given the opportunity to air out their views, they don't want to say anything, right? Things only, or I suppose change only comes about when you talk about issues. If you don't speak out, people assume that everything is fine, which is what I do myself. The only reason I decided to share this interaction is I noticed that the performance was shockingly poor, right? For quiz number 6. And I sat there thinking, surely, what could be the problem here?
So you have not yet, we can't watch presenting now, or if you have not yet started.
I'm still sharing my screen, thanks for that. But so I sat there and I'm thinking, surely, what could be the problem? What is so hard that people are unable to attempt or to get good marks when it's literally an open book assessment? You know what an open book assessment is? It means that you have access to resources. In an ideal case, right, your typical open book exam or assessment at UNZA will allow you to bring in only printed materials. But in this case, you have, you have access to the internet, right? Now, even with access to the internet, people literally failed basic questions. I've shared my screen. I do hope you can see my screen right now.
Just there, we are behind.
Yes, you can.
Are you saying that these are open book quizzes? We should be Googling or what?
Well, I mean, your friends are probably Googling. You are making reference to the resources that are available on Moodle. And I know people are looking up this information because it turns out, right? And here's the other thing here. I don't know if I have it in my slides. If you think that you can laze around and not read and only read on the day of the assessment, I assure you it will be a disaster for this course. Because it turns out that you don't have enough time to start reading up on the day of the assessment. A huge chunk of you do this, right? On the very day when the quiz is made available, that's when we see your activity online, right? This is when you are reading up on the notes and playing back the screencasts. Really? And which explains why you find yourself writing the quiz at 22 hours, right? And you, lo and behold, at 22 hours, you have difficulties accessing the internet. What do? You send out a message to Lighton, telling Lighton, oh no, I had problems with the internet. Well, the problem is you're not proactive. You're panicking. You're panicking because you didn't prepare beforehand, right? And you're given this opportunity to prepare for the assessments, right? If you've noticed, what we do is we schedule these assessments in good time for you to thoroughly go through the notes. Case in point, quiz number 7, which is next week on Friday. The idea is to give you enough time to thoroughly go through not just the lecture notes and the screencasts, but the supplementary material and the references that you find at the end of all the lecture slides that are given to you. Specifically, details that you will find in the prescribed textbooks. But you don't want to do that. This is why we're seeing this disaster. Failing. All right. So this short interaction, I do apologize. I have to rush into another meeting very, very soon. And well, I suppose it's at 18. So this is going to be less than an hour. So I'll just ensure that we stick to the plan here. Eventually, I mean, occasionally I'll probably rant and veer off the righteous path here, but that's to be expected. So we're just going to do a few things here, just a few announcements, things that have already been shared via email, but we've noticed that people, again, are not reading these announcements, right? We have people who, I don't know if they're being sincere, if they're lying, or if they think that they can get away with something by coming up with an excuse that is not valid, right? There are claims from other people to say they're not seeing the announcement associated with the course. Really? I've been singing about people, I've been singing about you ensuring that you bookmark the course calendar. I have told you all these events that are shared via the Google Calendar. This is the other thing, right? You don't want to listen, this memory character. Always logging on with an email address that is not UNZA-centric. There we go, same characters, right? Anyway, I've told you, these things that you find here, it's not that hard. In fact, Facebook is much, much harder to use. Facebook and Instagram are much harder to use than Google Calendar. Install the calendar app, bookmark this moving target. This thing is a moving target because the events are scheduled in good time. If you bookmark this course calendar, you will know exactly when events are going to be scheduled, when events are going to take place. You won't be caught unaware, right? But besides that, also, these announcements, right? This goes to the characters that seem to be claiming that, what do you call this? The events are not, I mean, I didn't know about the upcoming event, right? Really? Are you really seriously telling us that you didn't know about the upcoming events? What you've noticed, by the way, also, this explains why, by the way, you see these upcoming events here. I know you see these as well. By the way, there is, I do apologize for cross-posting, right? Those, I'm sure some of you have noticed, say, why does this light-on character send through an email and then there's more notifications coming in from Moodle? Do you know why? Because I know that there are characters that are not actively checking their emails. People that will come up with lame excuses that events are not scheduled on, or events are not appearing on Moodle. So what I do is, for every email that is important, unless if it's not a response, if it's an important email, what I do is I send it via the mailing list, and then I also copy paste the same message onto Moodle, so that those that feel comfortable accessing Moodle will be able to access that resource. And I know they're correct. I was anticipating that sort of comment that came through. Oh no, I didn't see the event. Really, the event is here, right? Scheduled quiz number 6. This announcement was sent through on Moodle, right? This. And if I open this up, you notice that I sent it, and I do apologize in the email. I said January 20th. This thing was sent through on Saturday, June 20th. Days in advance, days before the actual assessment. But anyways, so we're just going to just a few announcements here, and then just want to rant about the statistics, really horrible performance, and then just a quick walkthrough of the quiz. And you'll notice that this time around, I didn't create a screencast. I just thought we'd just substitute the screencast with this live interaction. Why not, right? And then I'll just quickly walk through some of the responses. I'll just respond to some of the concerns that came through via email. Thanks to those of you that responded. And then we'll have a quick Q&A session. Ooh, I hope I won't run out of time here. So, as always, just a reminder, if you're one of those characters who has not yet bookmarked the course calendar, right? I'm doing this for you now. There are upcoming events, important events Some of them, I guess you've already noticed that they're there, like the lecture series, for instance. But so lecture series number 8 notes are available, right? Including the companion screencast, lecture itself. There is a bibliography slide at the end with resources that I do highly encourage you to go through. And the idea is for us to go through this beginning today all the way up to part of next week. We shall have an interaction next week on Wednesday to just recap lecture series number 8. This is second nature now. Everybody knows the drill, right? But also, just to point out that we have quiz number 7, which is scheduled for Friday, July 17th, 2020, next week. I do hope people have noticed or taken note of that. And then the following week, that's week after next, we have the class theory test. This is a big one, right? This is like, I guess if you fish here, this would be like the bass here, right? This is those big fishes here. So you want to make sure that you prepare, and I know that you've been preparing for this test. Continue preparing, because it turns out that the class theory test is going to be based on everything we've covered from lecture series number 2 all the way up to lecture series number 8. Yes, Castrida, we're talking to you. I don't know if she's there, right? So everything that we covered from the time we started our discussion of the history of computing all the way up to the current lecture series, which is peripherals. Now, you would have noticed that in the email I mentioned that there was a minor change. That minor change was the scrapping off of some other components that were supposed to be part of class theory test number 1. Specifically, we were supposed to have included the lecture series number 9 and 10. Number 9 is the IO subsystem. Number 10 was supposed to be computer memory basics. Those have been scrapped off. And so the test will be based on these lecture series number 2 all the way up to lecture series number 8. Are we together?
Yes.
Thank you. Please feel free to interrupt me if you want to interrupt me. Quiz number 7, which is on Friday next week, same drill, 24-hour window period, is going to be based on lecture series number 8, which is peripherals, aka input-output devices. The lecture series which was made available today is a simple lecture series. It's probably one of the shortest, or maybe abstraction is also short, but it's one of the shortest lecture series. And in our opinion, and from experience in the past, one of the simplest lecture series, because performance, if you look at the performance of students, performance in this topic, insofar as the quizzes are concerned, is usually, it's relatively good, right? So, but that doesn't mean that you must not study. You must study for the quiz. If you do not study for the quiz, what will happen is exactly what happened in quiz number 6. No, I sat there, I was shocked. I actually did this. I went through these things, right? This is automatically graded, but I had to go through the solutions, which is why we regraded them, right? There were mercy marks because of this. If you notice, the first time, oh, sorry about that, I don't know what that was, but the first time this thing was graded, the marks were really bad, right? Although even after the regrading, the marks were still bad. But what we did was, we sort of like, we took exception to people that were responding to, if you've taken time to look at the solutions that were associated with the buses, right? Like the control buses, for instance. If you responded with bus, right, you got half a mark because that's a partial answer. That's the reason why your marks or your scores were sort of like upgraded, right? Yeah, they were upgraded. But here's the thing. I don't understand here. I sat there and I was thinking, what exactly was the problem with this lecture series? And the conclusion I have is, people are not, and I know this, people are not reading. You are not reading. Those of you that are reading are probably doing this at gunpoint, as they call it, right? I know. People are not reading. This is the reason why. People are not bothering to play back the screen, because there are consequences in life, right? Life has consequences. People are not, people are not reading. And if I was to go, and don't be deceived by these 90 views here. This is deceiving. If you look at the, if you look at the stats, right? If you try and look at the stats, you notice that, when did we write that quiz, by the way? You will notice that the views actually peaked on the day of the assessment. On the day of the assessment, that's when people were reading. It won't work for this course, I assure you. If you want to thoroughly understand what is going on, I'm trying to see when this thing was written, by the way. Wow. Out on the 3rd. Look at this. This is a joke, right? And I'm laughing here because you see when it's speaking, right before the assessment here, this is when people want to start reading. If you look at when these resources were actually made available, if we go to Moodle and go to lecture series number 7, if we go to lecture series number 7 was made available on June 20th. June 20th. Right? But people only, the peak, right? The peak was right before the quiz. It won't work, I assure you. Here's a hint for you. If you want to succeed in this course, you want to put in that extra effort. And really, at a bare minimum, all you have to do is go to Moodle. Every time Lighton sends through an email to say these resources have been made available, go to Moodle, download the resources offline to your device, go through them, consume them. Right? And I know the challenge here is that.
Dr. Lighton, just on that same part,
Yes.
those screencasts from 8.1, the same ones were shown from the slides. Just from 8.1, I've observed that they are the same.
No,
I took the introduction and I downloaded it, but these second ones are, it's more like they're just duplicates.
Yeah, so the reason why is what we're doing is we're taking advantage of YouTube's. There was a complaint. A few people complained that just dumping an entire screencast is too much. I don't know what that means. And so what we did is, if you notice, if you open this, if you click on this link, it's just it's the same video, but it starts at the timeline that's specific to. It starts at the timeline that's specific to peripherals. So it's the same video, but it's been spliced up into different segments. You see this? If I play back this, it starts at the 8 minute 37 mark. If I go here and if I click on, let's say 8.5, you notice that it starts at a different timeline. Do you understand? If I play this back, you notice where it's starting? It starts at the 1 hour mark, yeah? Yeah. And you can see this actually if you go to the video itself, you'll be able to see that the description itself has and it has I just open an incognito window. The description will have the timeline itself. It's to help. It's meant to ensure that if you're one of those characters who is just here and interested in revising details to do with storage devices, you just start here, right? This is why it's the same, and this is why, if you notice this, if you click on the progress bar here, you notice that there are different segments: introduction, peripherals, hardware ports, right? Input devices, output devices, yeah, communication devices, and blah blah blah. Does that help answer your question? Great. Okay.
Yeah, yes,
okay.
Sir.
Right. So I said that I'm thinking, what is going on here, right? This is also yeah, yeah, this was quite sad. I thought to myself, this was really sad, right? And I'm being sincere here. I thought this was really depressing and sad, right? You have no idea how much time I wasted randomly going through some sample responses or solutions just to try and see if there was something wrong with the way the automatic marking was being done, right? Even going so far as to try and check for people who were responding to, instead of writing bus, for instance, there are some people who would say buses, right? Even going so far as to really manually hand code the solution so that it takes into account all these different things, to see if we could try and glean some marks here, right? But I thought it was horrible, really horrible actually. Most of the class, practically the whole class failed here, right? Which is with the exception of just 6 people that passed. whatever that past is really, right? Depressing stuff. Okay, depressing stuff. What was even more depressing, right, is, so I'm just going to quickly walk us through the solution. What was even more depressing for me is giving you an opportunity to air out your concerns, and people are talking, and the problem I think is that, the problem I see is that some people are not responding to that email, right? And we want to know what the problem is. What I was expecting was for people to raise specific reasons why they failed. But what do people do? They do what the average human being would do, right? Come up with an excuse. Oh, no internet. Oh, no time. Well, guess what? If you look at the average time it takes for a person to write a quiz, these quizzes we've been writing, it's less than 20 minutes. So if you're one of those who was responding by, oh, time was not enough, take note of the fact that you are one of the few individuals in class that take relatively longer to respond to the quizzes. What does that tell us? The problem is not the time per se. The problem is people are not reading, right? That's a deduction we would make here, right? So I'm just going to quickly walk us through the solutions here, right? Took the liberty to export the solutions from here. So I'm just going to walk us through this and then I'll respond to the specific, I'm aware of the time here, so I'm just going to cruise. If you have a specific question, please let me know, right? Very simple diagram here. I thought, in case you were told explicitly, you use this figure here, right? To answer the questions that follow and the corresponding details. So if you look at this, right? The first thing you're supposed to do here, and I'm going to have to request that there's a bit of back and forth here. If you read up this text here provided here, and specifically if you look at these these coded components, like CM1 is responsible for execution of logical and arithmetic operations. The starting point was for you to quickly identify these components. What is CM1?
Arithmetic logic unit.
Okay, so ALU. This thing is, you know what typically happens is, let me see if I can see an inline note, I guess. Okay, so CM1 is equal to ALU. Jesus, I'm trying to avoid, let me see if I can, okay, maybe a pop-up. Okay, so CM1 is equal to ALU, right? What is CM2? CM2 specifies the way the ALU responds to instructions from memory. And I think this won't work here. I would have to undo this. What is the CM2? Oh, I'm not gonna, if you don't want to do this, then, sorry?
Control unit.
Okay, control unit. What is CM3? It says CM3 holds instructions that are currently being executed. What is CM3?
Program
CIR.
Yeah, this is the thing here, right? It's a bit, this was a bit tricky here. I can see someone was saying program counter or CIR. It actually turns out that it's a current instruction register, right? Or the instruction register, CIR, right? CM4 holds data to be processed once fetched from memory. What is CM4?
The MDR.
Yep, MDR or MBR, right? So memory data register, it's also called the memory buffer register. It's one and the same thing, right? And you're saying C5 holds the address of the instruction that will be executed once the current that would be executed once the current instruction has been executed. What is CM5?
MAR.
Program count.
Yeah. This is where it's hopefully it's making sense, right? So what we're saying here is, if you remember, the program counter holds the next instruction to be executed. We're just rephrasing these things and again trying to gauge your understanding, right? To see if you're able to connect the dots. That's all. Now, if you thought, I wonder if you think, right? If you think that there was going to be a question to say, what does MDR stand for? This will never happen, I assure you. This is not, it's not rote learning here, right? This will never happen, right? If you think that someone is going to ask you, what do the initials ALU stand for? You're mistaken, right? That will never happen. Anyways, so CM6, it says the CM6 holds the address in memory that is currently being read from. What is CM6?
MAR.
Memory address register.
Yes. So all you needed, this was the prerequisite, this was the starting point. What you had to do before you even started to attempt any of the questions, although you are welcome to quickly go through the questions so you have an idea of what to expect. But what you are supposed to do is understand this, right? Come up with the actual mapping of these codes here, right? What we've done, and then have a firm understanding of what these instructions mean here, right? Essentially, what this means is similar to the I guess the simulation we went through in class. Boom, right? And then we start the questions. How many machine cycles does the computer undergo upon successful execution of the entire fancy program? The entire fancy program has 3 instructions. Each instruction goes through a fetch, decode, execute phase in the cycle. So it's just 3 times 3, which is 9. A clock cycle, that thing we're calling the clock cycle, is associated with the individual phases. Clock cycle number 1, fetch. Clock cycle number 2, decode. Now, granted, right? We are making several assumptions here. Like this is like a single. It's a machine that operates using single machine cycle, right? It turns out that in an ideal case, computers are not implemented in a manner where they execute. They're executed like that, right? There's what they call pipelining, for instance, where so the load instruction will start, and then the next time it goes into the decode phase, you can literally bring in the add 51 instruction, right? So that the first instruction is at stage number 2, the second instruction will be at stage number 1, right? So, but anyway, it's 3 times 3, which is 9. It's as easy as that. And if you look at the statistics only, and this is the thing here, the questions, please do not be deceived by the way a question is phrased by just the brain can be misleading sometimes. It will fool you. You will fool yourself into thinking that you know the answer. Please always read and double check the question so that you understand that what the question is asking you to do. You might know you might have an idea as to what the question is about, but you always want to check and double check, right? So 9 here. And then here it says, what is the specific name of the component that is used to interconnect CM1 and CM2? Just come here. What do you use to interconnect the ALU and the control unit? It's a control bus. It's a bus. Fundamentally, it's a bus, right? But it's a control bus because this thing needs to send through a signal to the ALU to say, hey, you, what this person wants to do for this particular instruction, like instruction number 2, this person wants to add these numbers. So please add the numbers. It's a control signal, right? Control signals are transmitted via the control bus. You have 3 categories of buses: control bus, data bus, address bus, right? All you had to do is figure out which of the 3 buses it was. Now, granted, if you just wrote bus, there was a messy mark here, half a mark, you were given half a mark, right? But we're looking for a specific component, yeah? Come back to here, which specific component is used to interconnect CM1 and the memory unit? I mean, CM2 and the memory unit. What is CM2? The control unit. Again, what sort of signals are interchanged between the control unit and the memory unit? It's simple. It's a signal, right? It's a control bus. It has to be the control bus. right? You would say data if you knew that if the control unit was one of those components which holds data or instructions. It's a control bus, right? Because the signal is being transmitted. CM5, this was a true-false question here. I guess it was flipping a coin. CM5 is directly connected to the memory unit. You just come here. Is the program counter directly connected to the memory unit? Of course not. It can't be, so it's false, right? It can't be because we know that this thing is copied from the MAR. The value in the PC is gotten from the MAR, right? Well, it's just incremented, and we're not getting from the MAR. You just increment what's in the MAR plus 1. So there's no need for you to interconnect the program counter with the memory unit. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then we come here. What are the values of the following components during the second machine cycle? Now this is where it gets tricky. The second machine cycle is still going to be, it's going to be the decode phase. Key thing here is it's going to be the decode phase for the first instruction. Right? So we're still dealing with load 50 here. That's what we're saying. Right? So if we're still dealing with load 50, then you know that you already, the trick here was to try and figure out which one of these instructions was actually being processed by the CPU. Now, again, I'm looking at the time here, I'm just going to cruise here, but seeing as it's a load 50 instruction, you know that the CM3, which is the current instruction register, will have load 50. CM2, which is the control unit, will have no value because there's no value in the control unit, right? CM5, which is the program counter, should have the instruction which is next. The address of the instruction is executed next, right? So you add plus 1. The first instruction was at address 1, so the next one is going to be plus 1, which is plus 2, right? And then CM3 memory address register will just have the 1 because it's the current instruction being executed. Easy stuff. All you had to do was, before rushing into answering the questions, I know what the solutions are, read and understand the question. Think, right? In life, you always want to sit down, compose yourself. Sometimes it's not always possible to compose yourself, right? Adrenaline and all that those things, right? But compose yourself and think things through thoroughly, especially when it comes to these assessments. More specifically, for what's coming on the 24th, you want to make sure that before you attempt any question, my advice to you is, and we'll have a discussion about this very, very soon, but browse through all the questions, because part of the technique for answering questions, you want to go for low-hanging fruit, right? And I know people use different strategies, but you identify easier questions to attempt, and then you start with them first, because they're easy. Before you start looking at things that require a lot of thinking, right? Also, it's good motivation anyway. So this was that, right? Now, before I invite questions, and I know there are a lot of questions here, I'm just gonna. Sorry. No, I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. Do you want to mute your thing? Yeah. No, Kenneth, you want to you want to work on how you understand the question. Understanding the question is not in 5 minutes. That's not true. You want to really work on that. That's a problem here. If you think, I don't know if that was a joke, but if you have problems with that, you want to make sure you play these games that help you improve your mind or something. Understanding the question can't take you 25 minutes, and there's something wrong with you. Okay, wait. So I'm just going to quickly browse through. Sorry. And also, we should really be serious here, right? There's time for everything. This is something serious here, right? If we are joking, if you're serious, then you want to work on that. But if you're joking, there's time for everything here, right? Here's the thing.
I've got a contribution, not a question.
Yeah, please. Please go ahead.
So, quick question.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Looking at the way the quiz was set up, coming from the first page to the last page, that was really taking up too much of our time. because the time it took to load from the first page to the last page, we didn't actually go through actually identify them one by one to which one was this. So it wasn't easy for some of us. So yeah, understanding really comes into play, but mostly maybe if you would have put the first page somewhere second last, it would have been better, sir.
Yeah, I don't understand this. Here's the thing, right? And I know where this is coming from. It's characters, right? They always want to do this, right? They always want to come up with an excuse here. But what stops you from, I'm just going to do something here, right? I'm going to disconnect. Sorry, I'm going to stop presenting. And then I'm going to jump into this. I want to ask you a question here. I want you to be sincere here, right? Because I feel like people are not being sincere here. Let me just ask a question here. How many of you extensively use the browser?
Which browser?
Whatever browser. Do you browse on the internet?
Yeah, Chrome.
Yes.
Google Chrome.
Do you at any given point in time, do you not find yourself opening multiple tabs?
It depends on what devices we are using.
Yeah, yes.
It depends on what device, really.
As in,
It depends.
Or what we're
I'm
actually
asking you.
for those browsers.
Yeah, well, so my question is simple, right? Is it is it really that hard to? Oh shit! Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I had to mute off my. I just yeah, it depends on the device, really. Okay, fine. I mean, maybe it depends on the device here, but here's the question for you, right? Here's a question for you. This is me using my mobile device, right? And I'm assuming I'm a student and I'm using a mobile device here. And I'm attempting the quiz. I log into Moodle, right? We're just going to log into Moodle as Lighton, right? I log into Moodle as Lighton. Boom, right? I log into Moodle and there's a quiz. I know there's a quiz. I'm all hyped up. I know I've studied enough. And I log in. I scroll down to where the quiz, this thing is slow. I don't know why. But I log in and I scroll down to where the quiz is. It's going to flip it over. I guess maybe it should be much easier. I guess I do apologize for that. Great. So I'm logging in. I log in and I scroll down. This is me now, right? And I go here. Boom. Quiz. And oh, Lighton has set up this. Lighton has set up the quiz. Okay, fine. So what stops me from just opening up a new tab, right? And logging into Moodle using another tab. Right? If you notice that the assessment is making use of the same thing, what was stopping you from doing what I'm doing right now? Where the first tab has the questions that you're going to be attempting, yeah? And, sorry, my device, I'm not used to using my device here. But the other tab, and by the way, I haven't just started attempting the question here. And the other tab actually has what I'm looking for, right? This is one approach, by the way. There's different things that you could have done. I come here, boom. Right? And I see that there's this question here, and I'm trying to see if I can, because I'll need to simulate this, I guess, just because it's closed right now, so I just have to preview it, right? What stopped you from doing this, right? You're saying you start attempting the quiz, boom, on the first tab, right?
So this could be time consuming because you have to.
What do you mean
go
time
back,
consuming?
and the network
Well, so
is
this
really
is
bad.
This is one approach. The other approach is, and you do this, I know you do this. What the hell is this? The other, sorry about that. The other approach is, I should mute my thing. Boom. What's wrong with that? I save this image and then I start attempting the question. And I know you guys do this, right? If you can do this on Facebook and God knows whatever other things that you use. If you can do this on Facebook, what is stopping you from doing here? So that as you're navigating through the questions here, you come to question number one and you notice that it requires a bit of thinking here, you rotate back to the other part, right? How can this be time consuming? Especially that you're not
So I did
really Sorry?
I did that and I failed to submit. I did that and it failed to submit. And you
What
told
failed
me
to
that
submit?
it cannot be graded. My quiz.
What do you mean it says you
Time
cannot
ran
be
out.
graded?
As in, I ran out of time. I did what you just done. As in, I took a screenshot of the first page, and I started answering, but still more.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's unfortunate. But anyway, I'm just saying here that I thought it was a bit weird here that people are coming up with anyway, coming up with excuses.
That-
And I think it's one of the weaknesses here. If you're looking at the time here,
It's not an excuse. It's a valid reason.
I don't think it's the main reason. You have 25 minutes.
So, but I remember one of your quizzes that you gave us. You kept on repeating the first question on each page. We've done a quiz that you gave us. You kept on repeating the first question on each page. Why didn't you do the same for the previous one?
You must think. If I repeat that image on each and every question, the next thing you start complaining about is that the thing is taking a lot of time to load. You know why? That's the reason. It's because you need to load that image all over again.
No, but if we're going back to the same page, then it's the same thing.
No, you'd have actually getting a screenshot
Yes,
of the same image, or you have opened it in one browser, in which case you only get to download that image once rather than having to re-download the image every time you're navigating the new question. But the bottom line here is that there were workarounds. And in fact, if you're one of those people, I'll tell you this, if you're one of those people that ran out of time, you're an outlier because the average time that the person was taking was less than 20. Very few people ran out of time. The problem is not time. If you have a problem with time, then there's something wrong with you. Because if you remember the original time allocated to these quizzes, and these quizzes, the complexity of these quizzes are the same throughout the year. We just change the questions. The original time was always 10 minutes. In your case, this was increased to 15 minutes when we had one of those very first interactions, if you remember. And then when we introduced these online quizzes, we increased it to 20 minutes. There was a complaint, we increased it to 25 minutes by allocating that 5-minute grace period. Where are you going to write a quiz, right, that requires you to answer maybe just 1 or 2 questions or something, and you're given 20 minutes to answer this? This is a joke, right? This is a joke. This is a joke. The problem, I know what the problem is. I know what the problem is because unlike you, individuals that are just speculating, I've looked at the data and the problem points to the fact that it has nothing to do with the time. And I should share the breakdown of the times. I will, by the way, for all the quizzes. What you will notice is that the average time it takes an individual enrolled into ICT 1110 in the academic year 2019-2020 is less than 20 minutes. The vast majority of you will finish in 16 minutes. So the problem is not the time here. So if you're one of those who is struggling with time, the problem is with you. You are an outlier, probably one of the very few individuals that are complaining about time. And you can see this from some of the questions. If you've taken time to read up on the questions that are coming in from your colleagues, some of your colleagues are being sincere and they're being smart actually by acknowledging what the problem is. You must learn to be honest with yourself by, you can lie to me, but look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself what the problem is. The problem is not time. The problem is you are unable to answer the question. You can see this, right? Anyways, so I'm wary of the time here, right? Of course, there are some of you that probably went beyond time, but I'm just gonna go through some of these comments. Thank you very much for those of you that sent to the comments, but I just wanna mention about these comments, right? If you're one of those who's not sending through the responses, you're doing yourself an injustice. There's a reason why we are encouraging you to be a part of most of these interactions. It's one way of learning some of the things that will never be taught to you. If you've never responded to an email that is sent through to the entire class, when are you going to learn how to respond to emails? Right? If you're not one of those who is, I guess, forward thinking and you're sharing something interesting that you found online, why are you not doing that? When are you going to cultivate that sort of behavior? Because that's sort of behavior that is expected of you once you graduate, right? Once you start working out there, right? So I implore you, please, there's a reason why I've left it open-ended. An alternative would have been to create like some survey for every quiz that we write and then people submit that thing anonymously. But I want to leave it open-ended so that you share your experiences. And the reason of leaving this open-ended is because you look at what other things people were experiencing, what other challenges. And what you will notice is, and I know there are people out there that saw some questions that were shared and were like, well, wait a minute, I didn't experience that. And that's fine. This is how we learn, right? Your worldview is not the same as Lighton's worldview, the same as Alice's worldview, the same as Siame's worldview. We're different, right? It's likely the case that we're experiencing different challenges. And so part of what we expect when we ask you to share your experiences about the test, if it was an easy test, like last week's test where like, I guess literally the whole class passed, right? And they were happy here. If you share your experiences to say, I really enjoyed this. It was fine. I thought it was manageable, right? This is what we are asking of you. And the input you give us feeds into what we are going to do next year. If you look at what has happened in previous years, if you're one of those who's been looking at the questions have evolved. The way we ask the questions has evolved, and they evolve based on the feedback that we get from people. Now, if you just remain quiet and you don't give back feedback, how are we going to change? So I'm just going to go through some really interesting and thoughtful comments. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at the time. Please do feel free to interrupt me if you need me to clarify on something. But come for here, right? He was the first one to respond that it was on Saturday at 8, right? Saying there was nothing wrong with the quiz. We just failed. We ran out of time. Thank you for being sincere, Kamfor. I'm really grateful that you were honest with yourself here. And I know these are subjective views, but according to him, there was nothing wrong with the quiz. Thanks a lot. Martin says, yesterday's connection was messed up, right? Now, the thing with this comment from Martin is that it's specific to him. We don't know where Martin was. We don't know what time Martin was attempting this quiz. But you probably want to do what Lighton normally does. Every time I have an interaction, like today, right now, and the other interaction that I have at 18 hours, what I do is I always have a backup plan. In the event that my primary connection fails, I'll roll back to my other connection. And before you start mentioning, oh no, data bundles, well, Moodle has been zeroed on MTN and Zamtel. Get an MTN and Zamtel SIM card so that you swap them out if there's something wrong with the connection. And before you attempt the quiz, you have 24 hours. Do a test and confirm if your connection at that particular hour is fast enough for you before you even start attempting the quiz. But if you start, like some of you did, if you decide to start attempting the quiz at 23:30, you start panicking. There are people here that were writing this quiz around 22, around 23. Why would you want to risk your life like that, honestly speaking? But anyways, the class rep says, yeah, I don't know what the complaint is about the Moodle here, right? Time management during the quiz. Yeah, you want to plan ahead when it comes to time here, right? You want to plan for this, especially that the major assessments that are coming our way around the corner, like the test. You want to plan ahead. And part of planning, by the way, is before you start attempting the question, just do a quick pass through the questions so that you have an idea of what sort of questions you're working with.
Sir,
yes.
How long is the test going to be?
Well, it's likely going to, because the average test is usually like 45 minutes. So we are likely going to add like additional hours. So it's likely going to be 1.5 hours or something.
Oh, all right.
But anywhere between an hour and 1.5 hours.
Is it open book?
Well, I guess it is. I mean, it's not like you've signed an honor code. The way these questions are phrased, by the way, you will waste your time. And I know most of these characters that are saying time was not enough, you were, and we can see the logs. You were reading through the notes, right? You're going back to the notes to refer. Study beforehand. If this thing, you treat this as being like an open book exam, really, if you think about this, right? Unless if maybe other assessments will make you sign an honor code or something. But yeah, so it's like an open book exam. But I assure you, a lot of time is dedicated towards coming up with these questions to make sure you waste your time if you do that. You want to study before the test. But yes, it will be. So, but Thelma, you want to work on time management here. My response to Thelma's question is linked to what I said earlier. The average person attempting the quizzes in class takes less than 20 minutes. And I assure you that's the case. I'll share the average times with you. I don't know what Kenneth was saying I back up this, and I thought this was interesting, saying this is not America and whatnot. What does America have to do with what we're doing here? Why does this have to be different from what is being done in the USA? We've gone beyond. In certain instances, we've literally leapfrogged the so-called developed countries, right? So I don't know. You want to work on your connection? I use Zamtel and MTN sometimes. I roll back to Airtel, and my connection is just as good as my primary connection, which is Microlink. We've gone beyond that. So your complaint about the connection here, I don't know about the bushes you're talking about. Why is it that it's only applicable to quiz number 6? Why did you not complain about this in quiz number 5, for instance? I do apologize, but it's precisely because of this reason that we allocated the grace period, right, for people that are in the bushes, whatever joke you're making there. But anyways, running out of time, 51. Okay. This question here is, I wonder if truly it's about testing or understanding. Really, come on, Chitalu, right? I seem not to understand the methodology used to answer question 1 and 5. Ooh. Wow. Okay. So I answered this question during the walkthrough. Chitalu, if my walkthrough in the quiz was not clear enough, reach out to me and then we can have a discussion or something. Is that fine? But I think this question is tied to his understanding of the question itself. But seeing as we had that walkthrough, then it should be fine. Ms. Veronica here says, not everyone is using 4G. Come on. This is text. This is, by the way, it's one of the reasons why, if you look at most of the questions, this is plain text. The payload you soon discover once you look at memory component, once you start benchmarking or computing bandwidth and throughput and whatnot, you notice that when you're dealing with text here, because of the small payload you're dealing with, the connection is usually fast. Those of you that have bothered to use the zero-rated version of Facebook for some of these mobile service providers will notice that you don't have access to the images, and so your connection is much faster, right? You can view what we're doing in this course in the quizzes to be something that's similar. We try to avoid images. Why? Because whenever you have a situation where you have this eats up a lot of data, right? So much rather you download this once, you cache it somewhere, and then you start consuming the text, right? Start consuming the text. By the way, here's a hint. When I was walking you through the screenshots, what's stopping you from just quickly browsing through the questions? You log in, you know that there's a timer, but you log in and then you quickly get the snapshots, right? You get the snapshots and then you start answering the questions. Someone actually had a plain piece of paper that they forwarded as an attachment to explain their thing. I thought that was really smart, right? This is what I'm referring to. I'm just going to navigate towards the end here. I thought also was really smart here, right? Where someone was doing this. This is good. But you can do something similar, right? You go to Moodle and then you just export, you get screenshots of the questions, and then you answer them offline. You start going through the questions offline. But the timer is still ticking. That's it, right? You understand what I mean here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Wary of the time here. I'm running out of time. I'm just going to cruise. I do apologize, but maybe I'm just going to Miss Veronica here. And then Mlenga says the quiz was super unfair, right? The setup of the quiz was very time consuming. Wow. Okay. Super unfair. I've included a new phrase in my vocabulary now. I thought it was super fair, in my opinion, but point taken. I see a lot of people seem to think it was super unfair. I had to go to and from the entire 20 minutes. But this is what you would do also, right? In the actual exam, you flip the pages, you go back. What is this guy trying to say, right? Same thing here. I guess the flipping here is just using your thumb to navigate using that breadcrumb, right? And the breadcrumb I'm referring to here is this thing here. Oops, where is that breadcrumb? You know what I'm talking about, the breadcrumb I'm talking about? It's, this thing here. I'm just gonna go back to Moodle so that I show you the breadcrumb that I'm talking about. When you're attempting a quiz, right, an assessment, Flipping the page, what we mean by flipping the page is something that's akin to you coming to here, right? And then once you simulate, once you are answering this question here, it's the preview or something.
So let's see what you're presenting.
Oh, really? Oh, sorry. Oh,
Yep.
Lord knows. Thanks for that.
Yep.
I don't know if people are being, you know how when you're mad at mom and dad and you don't want to answer them, right? Just sitting there, say, let him talk. So you're sitting there, let him just talk. I don't want to listen. That's fine. Thanks for that. So the breadcrumb, thanks for that. The breadcrumb I'm talking about, as you're attempting the question, right? This is you attempting the question, and this is the breadcrumb I'm talking about. You can literally navigate to question number 5, right? You see what question number 5 is all about. You navigate to here. Another technique, by the way, is for each question, as you're sitting through this, before you even start attempting the quiz, use the time allocated to you to just get screenshots, right? Get screenshot of first page, right? Boom. Go to second page, get screenshot. The exam, by the way, the tests are set up in such a way that you have time allocated to you where you go through the questions. In the final exam, it's always like that. So this is what you'd be doing. You're a scout, right? You're scouting, and then you save everything, boom. Once you save, and then you start going through the saved content. Once you work through the question, you attempt the quiz question. You understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Something else you can do is you use the browser to export. Yes. The browser has a way of exporting pages. Export the page. Boom. Export the pages, right? Question number 1, question number 2, export them, and then go through what you have exported. Go through what you have exported. Offline. So that as you're exporting the pages, you've exported page number 1, 2, 3. As you're working through them offline, if you prefer to work through this offline, once you understand the question, you go back to Moodle, and then you attempt it. Answer it. It's not that hard. Anyway, I'm looking at the time here. I guess I'll have to apologize to the other guys in class. And then Martin again says, Elo, the way you phrase questions, 1% as if it's 20%. Congratulations, Dr. Lighton. Thank you very much for congratulating me. I'm very happy here. Here's the thing. Whether it's a quiz, it's a test, it's an exam, whether it's 1%, 10%, it's still an assessment. You should take it seriously, right? The level of complexity is usually tied to, the mark is usually associated with the level of complexity. So this thing of saying 1 mark here, it's tied to the fact that obviously the amount of thinking required doesn't require a lot of time, right? Anyway, the quiz was unfair. It wasn't easy, or rather straightforward. Okay. Wow. Anyway, it appears a lot of people are mentioning about going forward and backwards. If that's what you want, the next questions will include the reference image that you need on all the pages. It will be repeated. That's fine. That can easily be done. With all due respect, blah, 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 the quiz was the quiz setup was not okay. Okay? Time. The issue of going to the first page and back. I don't understand why clicking is a problem here. Network. Now the network, Mr. Teresa, here is just specific to you, sadly. Right? So, yeah, but we'll look into the issue of time here. We have looked at it numerous times here. And then Ms. Castro was saying the diagram needs a diagram to be under the question. Okay, everybody is mentioning about that. And then there was another follow-up question saying the diagram was not even clear. Now, I don't know where this was coming from, because what we do when we set up these quizzes is I use my mobile device. I use my computer to try and test the questions. I don't know if you were being sincere here or if it was just an issue specific to you, but you want to look into your issue here. Guys, can I pause for a little while and just ask, okay, no, I won't pause. I was going to pause and go into my other meeting and tell them to give me a few time to extend this, but I'll be late in the other meeting, I guess. I'll have to come up with an excuse. I'll explain to them. I'll link to this recording to prove to them that I was indeed doing this. Okay. All right. So, and then Moses says the quiz was, oh, thank you, Moses. The quiz was fair, but time given wasn't okay. And network was just bad. Okay, so here's the thing. The underlying theme here is network, time, so fairness or unfairness of the quiz, right? And you notice here that there are quite a few of you, quite a number of you that seem to think the quiz was fair, but time, there are some of you that think the quiz was fair, was not fair, and time was okay, right? So I don't know, right? I thought the quiz was pretty fair here. Time was not enough. And quiz was enough though. I got below average. No, you did not. The average, the class average for quiz number 6 is 1.78%. You, sir, got 4. That's above the class average, right? I don't know if this means that you meant to say that you got below the average threshold of the quiz, which is like 4.5. And then
That's what I meant.
yes. Was the question?
That's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant when I said the threshold 4.5. I got below 4.5. That's
yeah,
what I
that's
meant.
fine. Okay. All right. Yeah, you did get below the threshold, sadly. Tough luck. Now, Master Sinyangwe was saying the quiz felt like a test. It was loaded with too many questions. Now I'm trying to mimic the way Msuwila speaks. The quiz was just like a test. It was too loaded, right? Now he doesn't speak like that. He's a well-spoken character. I don't know if he's online here, but here's the thing. Whether it's a quiz, whether it's a test, whether it's an exam, these are all tests. And the assessment is similar. In fact, what you will notice on the 24th is the difference between what you will write on the 24th and the quiz is just the time and the number of questions you're going to be writing. The level of complexity of the questions is going to be constant. It will be the same. All right? And then Masaya Mikan here says, Mr. Lighton, with all due respect, sir, this is messing our CA. Well, you better read if you don't want to mess up your CA. You're not reading, right? How do you create such questions? I create them based on the content that we learn, the content that's disseminated to you. We are learning together here. We're co-learning, right? I'm teaching, but I'm also learning, although I guess I've learned a fair amount of this content, actually. I've been consuming this content for years now, more than a decade. But that's besides the point, right? This questions, here's the thing. If you don't believe me, Google up GCSE machine cycle, and you will see that the questions that are asked there, grade 2 and A-level type content, those questions are even far more complex than what you're writing here. Right? So if you're complaining about this, then you better really pull up your socks here, right? Because it's a sign that you're not reading, or you're reading the wrong things, or you're having trouble understanding, in which case you have to do extensive reading. Change your strategy. Find a study buddy or study partner so that you share ideas. And I know there are people that have reached out to me and implicitly have indicated the fact that they've formed like study groups where I remember someone asking a question and I responded to them and they said, no, I asked a colleague of mine and he explained. This is what you should be doing. There are those amongst you that know exactly what we are doing here. They've mastered what we're doing. They find it extremely easy to understand what we're doing. Reach out to them, ask for help from them. This is what it means to learn, right? Read online. You have resources available to you online. And then Moses here says, and the next thing, how it should be removed. It's time wasting. The quiz should be on one layout. Here's the thing for you, right? If you didn't know, as you are attempting the quizzes, I don't know if people are still online. As you're attempting the quizzes, when you got question number 1 and you answer it, when you answer this question, it saves it for you on your behalf. If this thing is put on one page and you're writing, let's say, the test, and that test is put on one page, this can be put on one page. If you're writing the test and your computer just suddenly switches off, what will happen, surprise, surprise, is you will need to start from scratch. Do you understand why we have the next? It's for your own good. Do you understand? Look at this. I'll start with my preview. I'll start my attempt. Start the attempt, and I'll go to question number 1 here, right? I'll just answer here and then say next. Observe. If I suddenly mimic what would happen to let's say my computer crashes or my phone just switches off, it happens, right? The next time I log in, and maybe this won't happen because I'm simulating this, but the next time I log in, I will find the saved solution because I click next. Implicitly, once you click next, the solution is saved for you. The reason there is next is we're trying to do something that you yourself would find hard to do. If I continue from last preview, observe, you see this triangle here? If I click on this triangle, I will find this, right? I'll find the solution that I entered. This is why the next is there. It's for your own good. Know that you'd literally be committing suicide, so we're trying to prevent you from messing up. So this next is there for a reason. We're saving solutions for you. Using that next, if your phone suddenly fails, you can literally pick up a new device, log in with your Moodle credentials, and you will be able to continue from where you stopped off. Do you understand, Moses? The next is for you. And then Philip says, as a student answering quiz requires the right environment, blah, 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 blah. Well, I thought writing the quiz maybe under a tree or in your room or something, that would be a right environment. At least it's not as threatening as what normally happens when you're writing an assessment as a group, right? You see 10 people are leaving and you're asking yourself, am I doing something wrong? Why are people quickly finishing this? The psychology involved with that. I don't know about the environment here. I'm sorry that your experience, Philip, has been negative or not positive. And I hope, let me just do something here, right? Apologize. It's always nice to not to keep people waiting. So I do apologize for that. Just give me we're almost done. I don't want to rush this. So I want us to leave time for just a few interactions, a few questions that people might have about what we're doing here. So just give me time. Not 2 minutes. Let me just say 3 minutes. Okay. So here's the thing, right? Whoever has the radio on here, just switch off your microphone, please. Have time to check for whoever that is. So it's saying, I'm sorry that your experience has been largely negative here. There's little I can do to help, right? The issue about internet, the only hint I have for you is you want to prepare beforehand. There's a reason you're given 24 hours. Guys, come on. Who has their microphone? Switch off your microphone. Yes, we know you want to share what you're reading on the news. Pow! Please switch off your microphone. We just named and shamed Cat Streeter. All right. All right. So I'm so sorry for some of these things are out of my control, right? If you have a negative experience because of the connection that you have, the only hint I have for you is make sure that you have at least a Zambia and an MTN SIM card, or even an Airtel SIM card, so that you can easily test out the connections and decide which one is much faster. By the way, download this app called Speed Test. Go to Speed Test. Go to Play Store and just check for Speed Test. It allows you to benchmark the internet speeds. And then you can easily decide which SIM card you're going to use, right? And then finally, Rachel here says, to show what everyone is saying. Oh, this says nothing, Rachel. The attachment says nothing. This is likely an issue that was isolated to you. So you were experiencing this problem because maybe the connection was poor where you are, right? I tried to copy the program, it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. Is Rachel, Miss P, are you online? What do you mean by it didn't work? Yeah, I would have been keen to find out what she meant by it didn't work. But here's the thing, I was rushing through some of these things, guys. I do apologize. Hi, are you still there, by the way? My connection
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
We're still there, sir.
Right, sorry, great, thanks. My connection was acting up, and this is the part where I have to, I guess, oops. This is the part where I'll have to, kill some of these things. We have a discussion about most of these things, by the way, guys. The issue to do with memory. So when I run out of memory, my machine slows down. And this is exactly what's happening right now. The problem is with the machine here. I have a lot of RAM, but if I have simultaneous applications opening up, I guess it's the design of this machine. It acts up. And I know which applications to kill, but this thing is not is not doing me justice. But the last slide that was there was just essentially just asking you if you had any specific questions. I hope you do. Do you have any specific questions about? I don't have time here. I have to rush here, but I guess in closing, I just wanted to find out if you guys are ready for quiz number 7 and class theory test number 1. Are you ready?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes.
Do you think that this?
Yes, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but sometimes you see when you're crossing the bridge, you have to plan, right? Especially when you know there's a bridge. It's not like you're
It
crossing.
will be like
Yes, sir, ready, sir.
the way
Sorry?
we're writing quiz, or it will be different in terms of scrolling things.
It's like we have another interaction. Yeah, we have another interaction very, very soon, where we get to, let me just close some of these memory hogs. We have another interaction very, very soon when we get to kind of like look at some other pointers, things that will help us work.
No. Still recording. Let's chill.
So now what they started, they have to postpone this.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you can hear me. For some reason,
Yes.
But I was saying that we have another interaction between now and when we write the test, where we get to review the test, and there'll be more hints and pointers. So before we write the test here, we will have an interaction on Wednesday, where we'll just have a quick rundown of what to expect in the test and what not. And then also we'll go through some of these things that I mentioned right now, some hints and pointers that I would have. So if people were a bit confused when I was walking you through how to create screencasts and whatnot, I'll go through that again after next week. Is that fine?
Yes.
Great.
Yes,
Life is like that. Sometimes bad things happen, sometimes good things happen. Like you notice, good things happen in quiz number 5. Number 5? Rather bad things happen in quiz number 6. This is part of life. You shouldn't be depressed. It should be a wake-up call for you to work even harder, right? This is how we improve in life. I will see you on Wednesday next week when we have a recap of lecture series number 8. Stay safe and see you next week on Wednesday. Thank you. Bye. I'm late for my other class.
Bye-bye.
Right, sir.
Bye.